Let's continue. Let us continue. I hope you brought a walking stick with you today, because you may need to lean on it today. Okay. Some of y'all may need a walking, the whole walking thing, the two crutches. You know, some of you may need a wheelchair today, but if you stick with it, you're gonna get through. Okay. All right, let's continue. If the definition of who you are, or who you really are, can be contained in a book, then you are already being controlled. I'm going to say it again. If the definition of who you really are can be contained in a book, then you are already being controlled. Now, let's take some time and think on that one for a moment. Am I saying books are bad? No, I'm not. Books are simply snapshots of reality, of facts. That's it. That's what it is. It's just a snapshot. But books in of itself will never, ever, ever, ever tell you the full story. They cannot. It's just simply a snapshot of reality at that moment. That's it. It's just a snapshot. But it never, books, I don't care what book it is, it will never tell you the full story. It will never tell you the full story. Books will never tell you the full story. They will never do that. I don't care what book you're talking about. It will never tell you the full story. And if you have arrived at a point in your life, or been at a point in your life, where you think one book contains the whole definition of who you are as an individual, that means to that degree you're controlled. Controlled by who? You're controlled by the individuals who put that book together in the first place. You're controlled by the publishers. You're controlled by the writers. You're controlled by the editors. You're controlled by the distributors. Those are the ones who are controlling who you are and how you define yourself. There is not one book out here that defines who I really am. Not one. They're just snapshots. If I had for example, if you go to, my mom's house or whatever, and then she has like our photo albums of me growing up and all of that. And, she has all these pictures of me when I was a child. And, we took you to the Philadelphia Zoo, and you remember we went to Canada, and then we went here and there and all that stuff. And this is when your dad, y'all walking, he took you here, and, y'all went to the park, and we went to Atlantic City and all this stuff. You're going to see snapshots of my life. You'll get some indication of who I am. But even those photo albums do not tell the whole story of who I really am. That's just an example. So likewise, now, but it will give you a little more accuracy, but it will never tell the full story. Now, photo album is something that was put together by my family, my mother, my father, they put that together with their hands, right? So if you want accuracy of who I am to a degree, you want some bits, some snapshots. I want some accurate snapshots of who Dwayne is. Those photo albums will give you some accurate snapshots. They will point you in the right direction, but they will never tell the full story, right? But if you want some accuracy, you can start there. It's a starting point. Now, let's jump over to this book that's called the Bible, that we did not write. It was given to us by force in slavery. Now, let's do a contrast with that. There is now one thing in there, in that book, that has my name in it, that has your name in it, has nothing in there about your family, has nothing in there about our family. But yet what we have done is that we have taken this book that has been written by people that hate you. And we have adopted it as our own and said, this is my history book. How in the world is that even a starting point for any kind of accuracy in defining who you really are? How is that? You're going to have to really explain. Never mind. You know what? Forget it. Don't even explain it, because I don't have time for that. Do you know how much blind faith? I don't even know that's faith. How much blindness one has to be to come to that conclusion that this book that was given to that was forced upon us is accurate information that defines who I really am. Think about what I am saying to you today, people. And I will take as much time as possible because I want you to process everything I'm saying here. You are literally going to allow a book that was not written by you at all. And like I said earlier, a book is simply a snapshot it's just a snapshot of time. It's a snapshot of reality, depending on what you're reading. Some things are they'll tell you up front, it's fiction, some books are just straight up fiction. So it ain't really reality. It may be based on some reality, the different degrees of it, right? But they're just simply snapshots. That's all it is. But the Bible is no different. The Bible in of itself are simply snapshots that have been edited over and over and over and over and over and over again of stuff that does not belong to you at all, of histories that do not belong to you at all. And yet we have arrived at this conclusion that somehow this is our history. This is our truth. It's not. Shows you just how much we've been deceived. So I'm going to read this one more time and then we're going to keep it moving, okay? If the definition of who you really are can be contained in a book, then you are already being controlled. Now, why am I saying that? Because where this thing I believe is going, where I believe our Creator is bringing us, in fact, I don't just believe this, I know this. Where this journey is taking us, there's not one book that you're going to be able to point to. Books aren't going to be necessary for this journey. Wait a minute now. How are you going to go from saying that, black folks don't read and all this other stuff, and now all of a sudden you're saying books ain't required? I mean, you're saying two different things. Remember, like I said, books are good for just establishing the facts. In other words, you use those books as a way of establishing as a starting point, if you will, in an investigation, if you will. But ultimately, they don't tell you, they don't define who you really are. Neither do they define you. Neither can they have the ability to tell you what your destiny is. If they are telling you what your destiny is, what you're doing is you're accepting the narrative of somebody else that's telling you what they want your destiny to be. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, if I pick up a book and I read it and it says basically you're going to be a loser, you always going to be a loser, and that's it, and I accept that, well, I'm accepting what those writers, those authors, those producers and the editors or whatever, I'm accepting their narrative about me. But what I'm telling you is you don't have to accept that, because where this thing is going, there's not one book that you can look at and say, well, it says here in the 15th chapter of the book of such and such that we're supposed to do this. And when you are referring to their book, that's a map that they drew. In other words, the people who wrote that book, they've already been at the conclusion of their matter. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying to you today. In other words, a lot of times we'll say, this book was written by, talking about the Bible, it was written by great men and women of faith and, and all this stuff. No, it was written by people like anybody else. Like think of some of the books like, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or something like that. When the author of Lord of the Rings, when he sat down and wrote that book, he had a beginning, a middle, and a conclusion already in his mind. He put it in paper. Now, as the first time reader of his book, I'm just simply going on a journey that he crafted. And whatever the conclusion is, the end of that destination is one that he already predetermined. And what I'm telling you is that the Bible is no different. It's already in that narrative, in that construct. Your destination has already been predetermined by whom? People that have a long history of hating you. And if you think for one moment this system is going to freely distribute a book, I mean, you can get the Bible for free now. Of course, you've been able to do that. They're going to freely distribute a book that is going to give you this blessed and wonderful ending. You crazy. This system has demonstrated to you over and over and over and over again that they hate you. They are not trying to give you a happy ending. Do you understand what I'm saying? They are not in the business of giving you a happy ending, especially if you look like me. How is it that we're going to say this system is so wicked and evil and demonic, but yet the same system gives you a book that gives you a happy ending, and we think, oh, well, that's it. God said it and I believe it, and that settles it. I hope you're following what I'm saying here. How is it that you are going to, one hand, believe that this system is of the devil, is wicked, is evil, and all that stuff, right? But yet they are freely going to give you a publication that says that at the end of all of this, don't worry, you're gonna live all happily ever after at the end. And here's a book. You're gonna live happily ever after. Yeah, you're gonna have tribulation and stuff like that, but that's okay. At the end of it all, you're going to live all happily ever after. Here's a book. We're going to tell you. It's right here. We wrote it for you. We edited it for you. We produced it. Now, we had to whip the heck out of some of y'all to get it. But here it is. Here it is. No, they're not giving you that because they believe they want you to have a happily ever after. They don't.